Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I've got a bowl full of Tolumnias here. They're just soaking. It helps loosen the roots, makes them a bit more pliable, which means when I try and drag them out of these plastic baskets, hopefully most of the roots will actually come out without being damaged too much. Now they're all going to get mounted. Those two little mounts are ready to go. These two aren't. That one's a bit big actually, but I haven't got anything smaller. I have, but it's not cork bark. And I'm trying to avoid using anything except cork bark at the moment, because some of the stuff's a bit iffy. You're going to break off, yes you are. So we'll have to come down a bit further then, won't we? The beauty of this is that there's no weight, so you know it doesn't have to be in a strong place or anything like that. It's only got to hold a little plant, and in this case it is a little plant, not a big one. Let's get some wire. Don't need a lot. I always come through from the back and then go over the top. That's far too much wire. Never mind. It's not like I haven't got much. And then just push that round there somehow. That doesn't have to be perfect by any means. And then I usually just pinch it with the pliers. It stops it wobbling around. So that's that. Somewhere about there. So I'm not going to turn the actual top over and make the hook yet, because it gets in the way when you're playing with the plant. We'll do that later. In fact, I shall straighten these out while I'm thinking about it, so that they're all straight. Blimey, that's some old bonsai wire. It's the bronze coloured stuff instead of the black. I haven't had any of that for a long time. Right, somewhere to put a hole through. Somewhere about there, as long as it doesn't split. Right, those two finish with. Right, not so much this time, I'll stop wasting it. It's better to have too much than too little. That's the mounts ready to go. I'm just hoping that I've got enough fishing line to do these, because the wire's a bit heavy for little plants like this with small thin roots. It'll look a bit clumsy, to say the least. Now, two of these have become separated from their tags and two haven't. So those that haven't, I'd like to keep with their tags. And those that have, it's a 50-50 chance of getting them right. But what I plan on doing is going back to the original video when I took them out of their boxes, when they had their tags on them, and I should be able to identify them from that. Now, these should just gently lift out. There's a few, I can hear a few breaking. There'll be ones that have gone probably out of one hole and back in another, or possibly even attached to the plastic. But you find they don't attach to the plastic very well. It's more likely that they've gone round in a loop. Right, that's not too bad, only a couple left in there. And then it's a matter of doing your best to untangle them a bit. Now this has been grown on from quite a small plant by the looks of it. Possibly even a seedling out of a flask. Quite lightly with those very small pieces there. And with Tolumnias, they do progress. So Let's see, make sure I'm on the camera here. So you can see that that was the first reasonable sized fan, followed by this one, followed by this latest one, and it is forming a continuous, although tight, rhizome, and I do have new roots coming out at this point. These roots branch, so even these damaged roots may well still, but they can decide to just shoot sideways, so I'm reluctant to take these little pieces off. I'm just going to leave them there. They will either give a bit of support or they will die back. That remains to be seen. But I want this to head off. There's this one, which is the biggest one. That's the biggest one, isn't it? Because obviously that will go on the biggest mount. So this one can go on that one, I think. These don't need a lot of mounting, quite honestly. Most of the roots are going to end up aerial anyway. Sorry, that's one of those, black flies. Just heading off across the newspaper there. I think I missed it as well. Right, so that's how it's going to go, just like that, with the little seedling growths at the front. And the trouble is, it needs to go. It's deciding, it is climbing upwards slightly. So let's have the taller one then. This one's climbing upwards, and hope that the others aren't. A Tolumnia will climb over the top, round the side, it'll even go round the back of the mount eventually. You just have to allow for it. So I'm going to put that about there so that it's got all of that to climb into. Let's see if I can fix it like that. Right, dry hands. Where we find out how much fishing. I keep saying I'm going to get some more, I just never get round to it. I mean, we're effectively locked down now. I mean, that would a fishing tackle shop is probably classed as non-essential, and it's probably therefore shut, so I'd be wasting a journey, and you're not supposed to make non-essential journeys, so I'd be pushing me luck anyway. So just wait. Our lockdown finishes in 1 day, 2 days, something like that. I think it's tomorrow. But whenever it is, waiting a couple of days is not a big deal. And if I run out now, I don't have to do all 4 of these today, do I? Get as far as I can and then leave it. Now, some people put their moss underneath the plant. I don't. I like my moss to be on top of the roots. Now, I know somebody's going to tell me off for not putting the loop on first. I'm trying to save fishing line, so that first loop would have been wasted. So we are going to hold the plant, tighten the loop up. There we go, that's got it. Right, so now I've got very little live moss left, and you're going to be amazed how little moss I'm putting on these. That's it. That's all it's getting. And even that's pushing it a bit. They really don't need much. So that's the zombie moss. I've got some near the base of this latest fan, yeah, because that's where the next set of roots are going to come out probably. And we'll put some live moss on. Again, I haven't got much of this. Something else I need to do is go out and get some more. But there should be enough to just put a bit on each of these. Makes them look nice if nothing else. And I always put the live moss on top of the zombie moss, because if the live moss dries out too often, it will eventually die and it will just go brown. And even though it might come back to life if it's then kept damp, it can take a hell of a long time. Right, so we'll come round there. And we'll go round there. And then I'm going to come round high up, and I'm going to go in between those last 2 fans. The reason for doing that is to really hold the plant secure, make sure it doesn't wobble around, and catch those high up roots as well. So they're a bit loose. Now is my moss captured. Another one round the bottom. There we go. Yep, that's got it. I must admit it's not tedious, but it's flipping repetitive, if nothing else. So I'm going to have to use my pliers because I've got wet hands, and this won't come out of that V shape. Gotcha. Right. There's quite a bit left over there. I might even have enough to do another one. Now, where's my other end gone? Is that it? Yeah, managed to tie it in. Right. So I'm just trying to get the short end on my right hand side. I always use a reef knot, which is right over left, left over right, but trying to tie one with the long end as the first bit to use, you end up tangling it all around your fingers. If you tie it with the short bit, it works. And now we need to, do I want to do a new tag? Not really, there's nothing wrong with that one, it's just too big. If I put that on there, it doesn't matter how I put it on there, it's going to show. I think it'll just have to show, won't it? I'll just put a hole in it for now, and that'll do. I'll just hook it on there somewhere, just so that it's... I mean, there's probably 3 or 4 of my Tolumnias in there at the moment that until they bloom I don't know which ones they are. So I'm just waiting on those blooms. I haven't got a clue what I've got there. So keeping the tags there is a good idea. I presume the tags haven't got muddled up before I got them. If you think about it, they're only just placed in those tiny little pots. And I've seen it at Burnham's. I've seen it in one case. It was quite a bad case because the parents were actively looking at the orchids. They were looking for something, so they were quite intent on concentrating on what they were looking at. And their 2 kids were running along, taking the tags out of the pots and putting them in different ones because they thought it was funny. You know, it's not funny when you get home with a plant that's not the one you wanted. So, right, so there we go, that's one done. The next fan, because of the way this is angled, is probably going to come out there. But it could come out there. Tolumnias are quite happy to have a fan upside down. They don't have to be upright. If they come out upright, it's fine, but if they don't, it's also fine. Right, that's number 1. We don't want to touch the kettle with it, do we? Singe it. I don't think that's going to be enough to do one, is it? Right, so that's the other big one. Let's get one of the tiny ones out, just see how small it actually is. So, oh, that's going to come out easy. Jolly good. That's a nice easy one. So that's got its latest roots are starting here on this fan, which is a young one. That fan, I know it's been disturbed, but providing it doesn't react to being disturbed, because the disturbance is minimal if you think about it, so providing it grows on okay, it will... I'm going to take that back one off. This just looks a bit weak. See, now you could plant that would grow. You could stick that in a tiny little pot with a bit of moss, that would eventually grow. But I don't mess about with things like that. I can't be bothered with lots of little tiny pots with stuff in. I know some people find it awful to throw a plant away like that. Right, so you're just going to go on there. You're going to be no trouble at all, are you? Right. But I really don't think that piece of fishing line is going to be long enough, so we'll have another piece. I am getting down, you can see now I'm actually taking the last bit off. So I am probably going to run out today. Which means I will have to go and get some. I'll do it later in the week after the lockdown's finished, and more chance of the shop actually being open then. I suspect if I went round today it would actually be closed. Can't exactly say that fishing tackle is an essential requirement. It's not like a DIY shop where they sell parts for bits of houses that are broke. That's essential. Place like the pet stores, in there's some medications and things that you can buy, food, specific, specialist type foods. So that would be classed as essential, a pet store. But my cats don't get anything that special. Get what they're given a little bit. Right, bit of live stuff. Complete with ferns. The trouble is, these little fern seedlings, they're there. It's probably where one of my ferns had spores on it, close to the tray, and the fan would just blow the spores onto the tray. And also, they've got a perfect place to germinate here. A tray of soggy moss. Got any of that fluffy stuff left? Yeah, there's a bit over here. Let's have a bit of that. See if that will take. I doubt it. Right, that's it. Let's put our loop round. With a plant like this, you can get away with putting the moss on because it's flat, and the plant's not big enough to wobble around and slip off. I mean, just holding it with my thumb like this is fine, but some plants, if you try doing this, all the moss falls off, and then you have to have language to talk about it. There's some special language you can use for times like that, when you spend ages getting everything just in the right place, and you you only need to look at it and it just all falls off. As I say, there's some special language for times like that you can use. If you haven't got your own, of course. I mean, if you've got your own, that'll work fine, I'm sure. Right, are you firm enough? Yes. Jolly good. Right. Come on, don't mess about. Wet hands again. Gotcha. Right, that one didn't have a tag, so we will attempt to find out which one it is sometime. Maybe. Possibly. Right, another little one then. Leave the big one till last. The biggest till last. But this should just pop out of here, no problem. Yep. Another little one. Right, how are we doing here then? That's the latest growth here. And that has fresh roots starting as well. Now that's got a broken leaf there that's only going to cause problems if it's left there. It's better if it's trimmed tidily. Any damage that you get on a plant is a potential place for infection to get in. Whereas if it's cut neatly, it'll heal over really, really fast. Right, so you're going to be easy. You can just plonk on there like that. Go slightly sideways. This one's going to be a bit of a nuisance because it's kicking up in the air, so it's kicking the moss up. It won't stay flat. Now it will. Let's just put something underneath it. No, it's not going to stay there, is it? It's only got to stay there long enough just for me to get the loop round. Oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, at least we can have enough live moss to just do these few, which is good. They do look nice with the live moss compared with the zombie moss, When the zombie moss is new, it's that strange sort of browny tan sort of colour, and it looks odd because it doesn't look like moss. You know, this, you know, it has the texture but not the colour because it's dead basically. So a bit of live moss on top that's green, it just makes it look far more natural. Right, what are we doing then? We can have enough. Yeah. So although the last one is a big piece, in width, in loop terms, it's not really any bigger than that one. It's longer. Yeah, so that should be alright. How much we got here? More than enough. Because these are not large, heavy plants, I'm not having to really secure the plant itself. It's really the moss I'm securing rather than the plant. And so far each one has had new roots, so it's going to attach quite quickly. I mean, obviously a Tolumnia is going to grow slower in my place during the winter because of the temperatures and the short days. These come from the Caribbean area. There ain't no short days. No such thing. You know, I doubt if the day length varies much more than an hour either side of 12. So they get, you know, good day lengths permanently throughout the year. So they don't get a, you know, a sort of duller season as such. And I believe in that area they tend to get rains most of the year round as well. Like, they don't get a dry season. So that explains really why they can survive the way they do as twig epiphytes, not growing on anything at all, because they do get enough moisture out of the air and the rains. So they do fine without having to have anything around their roots. They just hang on. I suspect in some cases they hang on for dear life because it does get a bit windy in those areas sometimes. I believe. They do get a bit of wind. But then a small plant hanging on to twigs, growing quite low down in the undergrowth, is probably relatively safe in a high wind. You know, compared with something that sticks up in the air anyway, or lives higher in the trees, that sort of thing. That's 3 done. I've got to watch the time here. I've got another Zoom meeting today. 3 o'clock though, I've still got plenty of time, so that's another one done. Yeah, he's fine. Right, and then the last one is the largest. So this might take a bit. This is the one with the plant growing out the bottom. That might not still be attached when this comes out. That needs to stay on there. Whether it's going to grow or not remains to be seen. Now this has been grown on from a seedling out of a flask as well. And I would suggest it's highly likely there's more than one plant in this tangle. But as they progress to Tolumnias, the roots get bigger up to their definitive large size. There'll come a time when the fan won't get any bigger. The next one will be the same size as the previous one if it's growing well, and that's the largest the fans are ever going to get. And this one's got another new growth coming on top of the latest fan, and another one behind it that's growing on. So this has got this one maturing, that one growing on, and another one just starting. So this has got a lot going for it, and it has some new roots around the base again. And lots of tiny little plants around the back that are going to get squashed. But I'll push them out to one side, you know, they might shoot out, you never know. Right, so you're going to go there, like that. Stay. some watering now, you know, with the shorter days and the cooler nights and cooler daytime temperatures. My mounts are now taking less than half an hour to water, and that is taking them down and watering them, hanging them up to drip and putting them back again. They're not taking any time at all, because there's about a third of them don't get watered every time. They're getting missed out because they're resting. You know, there's Noblies on mounts, there's my true winter resters, and there's some of the Oncidium types that don't dry out in 2 or 3 days, so they get missed every now and again. So yeah, the watering has come right down, and my pots, they're going at least 8 days now, so they don't come round very often. Now tomorrow, all of the pots, that's the lot, the cooler shadier ones, the holy clay pots and all my other pots, the whole lot are going to get watered, but they won't. There'll be a proportion of them that won't get watered because they're still wet. So that's how it's going at the moment. All good fun. Got some fluffy stuff this time, see if I can get some of that to grow. When you see that growing wild, it looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm not going to attempt to learn names of moss. I think all these mosses are species, they have got proper names. But you'd need to be able to truly identify the different ones, because there must be an awful lot that are different but look exactly the same to the untrained eye, as they call us novices. But I just like moss, I just love the green. And I like environments where there is a lot of moss, because they're going to be moist, they're going to be shady, and I like that. I'm not a sun lover as such. I don't like being out in the boiling hot sun. I like wooded areas. My favourite environment is a rocky wooded valley with a rocky stream thundering down the centre of it, with rocks sticking out so that you can jump across the stream in different places. Lots of moss on the rocks and on the base of the trees, and that dappled sunlight that you get in that environment. That's my favourite place to be. Not a beach person. Not really a mountain person, because I'm getting on a bit now. You know, clambering up the side of a mountain right up to the top is probably pushing my luck. My luck, when I get up there it would get foggy or something. I wouldn't be able to get down. Well, we had enough of the stuff. I hope I've got enough there for this one. This one might be a bit short. We shall see. I'm not going to need to go round that many times. And if I have to go, you know, get another piece and do another couple of turns, so be it. I've got enough there. But I haven't actually got anything else that needs mounting at the moment. There's another Cattleya that's in a pot in moss, which I really don't like at all, but there's not a lot I can do about it. There's not a sign of any new roots on it at the moment, and it's in moss, so it's going to sulk when it comes out of the moss, that's for sure, because it'll go on. It's not going back in moss, obviously. It'll either get mounted or it'll go in a holy clay pot in bark, and it will object, it will sulk coming out of moss and going in something completely different. So the timing's got to be right. It's got to wait until those new roots show. And I've just got to go ultra careful with the watering in the meantime, so that I don't rot the root system. So we certainly don't want to do that. Now I'm going to have to get one turn in between those rhizomes, or that big piece there is just not going to stay on. To try and get in behind that one and come round there. That's got it. But I've got enough to go round one more. No, I don't think so. Well, I don't know. Yes, just. It's going to be a fiddly one to tie, because I've hardly got anything left. But we'll see. Oh, come on. Thank you. Yeah, so I've got a very short piece to actually tie, but the piece that I left around the back when I started is longer than the piece I've ended up with, so I have got enough to do a knot. What I might not have enough for There's enough left to tie the tag on. This one did have a tag, didn't it? Yeah. It's a handwritten one. How strange, because all the others were yeah, all the others were actually printed properly, proper ones. Anyway, probably get away with not actually sticking that in the actually tying it on. It'll just thread between these bits and stay like that. Yeah, that'll stay there. That doesn't need tying on. Right, so that's all 4 done. 4 mounted Tolumnias. Zombie moss, live moss on top. Zombie moss is coming off because it's sticking out the top, and it looks wrong when you've got the green stuff on the top and you've got a bit of brown sticking out. It looks a bit odd sometimes. So I usually go round and just tidy up long straggly bits that got left hanging out. Just take them off, leave a nice tidy mount. Yeah, with the green stuff on the top. So that's one. That is Tolumnia Bloody Bird, it says there. One would think that's red. Probably. This one, again, that's got a tag. That one is Mocha Dot, M-O-C-H-A, Mocha Dot. And then the other 2 are unknown on the grounds that they've got separated from their tags, but they're not totally unknown. You know, I do have them in my notes as a named plant, and I've got a video when they came out of the box to try and identify them should I choose to do so. See, when you're trying to identify a thing from a video, you look at this one. It's got a very wide, very flat fan that's quite distinctive, yeah? And then it's got its new growth, which is pale, yeah? So, and then there's a fan in between those 2 that's not as big as the one at the back, and probably is not going to be as big as the one at the front. So that's its distinguishing features. Now this one is nothing like that, nothing like it at all. It's effectively got a small, wide, flat fan and a much bigger new growth and not much else. So that they are quite different. So looking back at that video, I should know which one's which. That's my theory, what I have, and that's it for today. No joke, because I need to go and look some more up. Oh, I know one. I was watching a TV program, a TV series that I watch one of now and again, and this just tickles me. It's stupid rather than funny, quite honestly, and it sits on the end of a half-hour sitcom program, and it's like me. There's a joke on the end of each one of the episodes. Some of them are a bit silly, but anyway. There's 2 nuns driving along at night in the car, yeah, and they come round a bend, and there's a huge vampire with the cloak, yeah, and the big teeth, stood in the middle of the road like that. So they jam on the brakes, and one of the nuns looks at the other one and goes, "Show him your cross, show him your cross." So she winds the window down and says, "Get out of the way, you toothy git," and shakes her fist at him. I said it was silly, didn't I? See you next time.